Mercedes has finally found some answers to actually help their W14 car. Clearly, the car has not gone in the direction that they have wanted the car to go into. Obviously, we expected Mercedes to be fighting at the top. Most people actually had Mercedes coming back into it. Even F1 rivals like Ferrari and other teams on the grid like Red Bull, actually, Helmut Marko and Christian Horner, talked about the W14 coming back. We do have some upgrades in Jeddah, which I will talk about as well, but mainly they have found answers to what the new concept will be, and they have a direction. Because even that was a problem in Bahrain. They had no direction where to go to with the W14. Now they have a clear one. And before I get more into this video, please leave a like, subscribe. You guys mean the world to me. We are doing amazing, and I am so thankful for you all. Let's keep shooting higher. I upload almost every single day. Hit that notification bell when you can. And a lot more exciting stuff to come in this 2023 season. Let's start this W14 video. Okay, so as for the Mercedes, they say they have found key answers. Specifically, talking with George Russell, he had a lot of words to say about the Mercedes car and the direction that they're taking.
Short-term strategies to get the most out of the car. We're looking at more medium-term strategies of the approach we need to take, the concept we need to take to put ourselves in a position to fight for victory.
He said they found the first key answers to where this car is taking them. I mean, the new concept is what I'm trying to talk about, because clearly we know that this no side pod design hasn't worked. And here are some of the biggest reasons, and I'll tell you them right now. The W14 is essentially a upgraded, more modified version of the W13. That's exactly what it is. And it's the actual prototype coming out for this beginning of the season just to see where they stand at. They did not expect to be this far behind, but the car is helping them improve upon what will be that B concept we get in Baku. Upgrades are being added to it, but what makes this car so bad is, and George even talks about this, it's they compromised. Like last year they bounced a whole bunch. That was their biggest issue. It was the actual porpoising. This car doesn't bounce, so they figured out what made it porpoise, and now they don't porpoise. To compromise for the no bouncing, they lost downforce, they gained straight line speed, but they've lost a lot of their rear end as well. Last year, that was the best car in corners. By far, it was just as close as the Ferrari, and the Ferrari had a bunch of downforce. So being competitive with the Ferrari in a car that was porpoising a whole bunch, while the Ferrari did porpoise, it didn't porpoise as much. It was a big sign that Mercedes was moving in the bigger direction. The W13 was a concept that they thought would take them leagues above everybody else. Obviously that failed, and when they won a race in Brazil, it actually kind of raised those hopes again, because they actually won that race on pace alone. It wasn't just a fluke, it was an actual race win. So when they won in Brazil, they took this concept and they're like, okay, we're sticking with it, let's keep doing it, and let's just upgrade this even more. Hence where the W14 comes from. The no side pod design is still there. The barely having that downwash that Red Bull has is still there. The big shoulders is actually something that almost every team has incorporated this year that is actually improved. And they added it to their car, but clearly it is not doing what they actually expected it to do. I talked about in another video ago that those actual shoulders that they added on the car don't give them the lateral downforce that they wanted. So the car isn't getting the downforce that it actually should be getting, typically with any other upgrade. What they know now is what actually went wrong with W14 in Bahrain, and particularly with their actual system of getting the car from the W13 to the 14. They know where it went wrong, and they're working on those fixes. Hence why we will see visible changes. While a lot of people don't say the side pods is the biggest thing, it's true. Probably the underfloor is the biggest thing, because floors are what these cars are really meant to be there for. The actual way that the floor picks up the downforce is the most important part. You could have whatever side pod concept, but if your floor is the best, you could essentially be the best car. And that is where Red Bull reigns supreme over any other team on the grid. But what the side pods do add is, with this no side pod design, there isn't as much development as they can get as like a Red Bull car. There's so much more room to be adding more upgrades and to find more development. This W13 and 14 clearly doesn't have enough in its tank to actually provide enough upgrading throughout the whole entire year to keep this car consistent. While they did actually upgrade the W13 from, like I said, a third place to maybe fighting with Ferrari for second, Ferrari stopped upgrading and so did Red Bull. So they essentially caught up to cars that were stopping their upgrades by somewhere in the 3/4 of the season. With the W14, they're already 7 or 8 tenths off. Lewis says like 1.5 seconds. I don't believe that for 1 second. They are definitely closer to that, and we'll see that now in Jeddah. But they aren't where they want to be. They need a big upgrade and a very radical upgrade, which is coming in Baku. They did believe that this direction was the right direction for the W14, so the actual blaming and pointing fingers, that isn't happening. Mercedes is confident they can get back on track with this new concept coming out in Baku, which is very exciting. With minor upgrades coming, like I said, in Jeddah, that aren't actually visible. I thought that we would get something visible in Jeddah. It's not. They're minor upgrades that are helping the car and actually adding downforce. I'm going to take a guess and say that these upgrades are somewhere involved with the floor. Their rear wing is a lot skinnier, and here's the thing. A big thing that you got to notice during this Grand Prix, how close Mercedes and Aston Martin are to each other. Because essentially, they're both running somewhat close to the same rear wing, and I think Mercedes is trying to pick up on the data that Aston Martin has for this Grand Prix to actually see if they're competitive enough, and should that be the direction that they take for their car. So they're kind of matching up, and watch out for where Mercedes and Aston Martin land in this Jeddah Grand Prix. It will be a close one. These upgrades, we'll see what they do. We'll see what Jeddah provides for us. I'm excited for qualifying and the race, and I'm expecting a banger. A lot added to this car in these pre-races before Baku will be important for them gathering really data. All three of these tracks, both Saudi, Bahrain, and Australia, are all completely different tracks. They provide completely different things. Australia will provide us a lot of actual brakes, but also high-speed corners, while Saudi is all high-speed corners and super straights. Bahrain has no high-speed corners, a couple of medium-speed corners, and low-speed corners. So essentially, you're really testing the car in these first 3 races. It gives you a lot of data to play with. We could see where this W14 is after those 3 races. I wouldn't really judge the car just yet, and I wouldn't really judge the way that this grid is now at for these first really 3 or 4 races. I would even say after Baku, maybe Imola will give us a good standpoint on how close these cars are. If we remember last year, we all judged that Ferrari was the fastest car, and that quickly fell apart. So keep your hopes up high. There is still a lot to look forward to, and this Mercedes car will pull a lot more than it is right now. We know that team, and essentially this is just the beginning of what could be an amazing 2023. And I expect Jeddah to be a very close race. Will Mercedes be up there? Well, I can't really tell you that. I can say that I think Ferrari will be closer, but I do think that the Mercedes will be improved. And like I said, let's see this direction they go into. I'm excited to see, and I'll be here to provide the news for you as soon as I got it, and really my own opinion on it. Please leave a like down below, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.